What's up, everybody? So I have been busy and I thought I'd come on here and talk some story. Not sure what I was supposed to do, but I don't have a memory. I just saw something about humans eating mummies for medicinal qualities. And I thought that was interesting. And for some reason, that prompted me to come live because I thought maybe I could eventually go live and talk about topics like that, but I'm not prepared at all because I've been so busy. So what have happened in the last few weeks is we moved out of our house. We are mobile now, agile, as I should say. And I've been prepping a podcast that's about to launch. It's going to be amazing. It's not like any podcast that exists right now. And it's an idea that I have had and been working on and been thinking about. It's been percolating for a very long time. I'd say like 3 or 4 years because, well, I need to change the camera on this one. How do I do that? How do I change the camera angle? Flip camera. There we go. Because I've done 60, 70 podcasts as a guest. And so I find a podcast that would best suit the podcast listener, the podcast host, the podcast guest, and even the podcast sponsors. So the name of the show is Subject Matter Experts Show. And I can't tell you the premise just yet, but it's coming. Hopefully, in a week or two, we have the first series almost complete. And then we've got it's going to be wrapped up into live shows also. But as I said, it's different. It's different than normal podcasts. It's not, yes, it is people talking to each other, but there's a background structure that is amazing. It's also best for sponsors as well because we get them targeted listeners on a specific subject, which doesn't exist in podcasts, right? Well, not all of them. Some podcasts are on very specific subjects, but are they able to provide qualified listeners of a variety of different subjects? And are they able to pinpoint those listeners to their products? Anyways, what else has been happening? Oh, I'm making all the Kriya of the Week Kriyas. They're going to be not free, but essentially free for those who have been members. It'll feel like free, even though it's not exactly free. But usually they pay their monthly service, they meaning the people that are doing the Kriyas and supporting me to do all of this and to get them more Kriyas. They pay the membership and they get one Kriya a week. That was how the website was designed for the last few years. And I've got 130, 140 Kriyas that nobody has access to because the website functions that you get the Kriya of the week this week and access to no other Kriyas. So I've been working so hard, uploading, downloading, naming, sorting, uploading a cover photo to all of the Kriyas because now they're going to be accessible, all of them, to anybody who's paying the membership fee. Also, on top of that, I'm putting all of my skillful psyche drills. I think there's 21 hours of those, putting all of those into the same membership, and then probably also future courses as well. So look out for that. That's what's new with me. So back to the mummies and eating mummies for medicinal purposes. The post I saw was definitely making fun of that. Actually, I think it was just a Wikipedia page. And I was thinking if there actually is some truth to it, because those mummies definitely are harmonized to reality in some form. And I would actually even say that they are halfway in this reality and halfway harmonized to other realities. I just need to get some comments going on. If you guys have any questions, let me know. If you're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, I can see all of the questions except for on Facebook. Oh, there we go. Comments. Just need that thing accessible to my eyes. And I need my YouTube one. There we go. How do I make $20? Is a question on YouTube by Gabriel. Gabriel, powerful name. You know what's funny is when I first started this internet thing, guys on Instagram, put it in the question box because I will lose the question. So I've got two questions I'm answering right now. How do you practice shadow work? If so, how often? Not how do you? Do you? Do I practice shadow? So the thing with shadow, every aspect has a shadow side of it, a light side of it, a gift side of it, and even a city, according to human gene codes, gift part of it. All right. So just to work on the shadow of your life is also something that you can do, but shadow work can be done in every aspect of life. So when you're going through events, looking at things from multiple perspectives allows you to triangulate. So if you guys are familiar with that word, there's satellites that can triangulate on your position because they're picking up a signal from somewhere on the planet, and if one satellite picks up that signal, it doesn't know exactly where it's at, right? But if there's another satellite over here and they're both picking up the signal, it can kind of tell where you're at on the planet. But there's three of them. They can triangulate from each of their different perspectives and see exactly where you are on the planet. And that's essentially how GPS works. So as you're going through life, and as you're going through the situations, if you only have one way to look at things, right? Is this good or is this bad? Does this serve me? I want this. Am I going in the direction that I want? There's all of these perspectives that we have. Most of us are looking at our goals and then the experiences that are happening in my life, and we're looking at it one dimensionally. Is this serving my goal or not? And that's the equivalent of one satellite. One satellite. All right. So we can look at, okay, it is serving my goals, but what else is it doing? Is anybody disadvantaged as a result of this? We can look at the shadow side of the event, even if the event is seemingly good. Okay, that's another satellite. We can ask who is impacted by this? What is the cost? Because everything has a cost. There's a yin and a yang to everything. And so we can look at that. What's the shadow side? And then we can even look at like, what's the long term perspective of this situation? Okay, we can look at the now. How do I feel about it now? What's the long term perspective of this? If I was, let's say we're doing something next week. I'm going to a networking event. How is this event that I'm doing right now going to serve me by telling stories at that event? So you can pick and choose your perspectives for every single event, good or bad. And that includes shadow work. And so back to the shadow work, do I practice shadow work all the time? I'm going through it because everything has a shadow within the light. Every piece of mass or matter, anything that matters, has a shadow in the light. It doesn't matter what the label is, everything, even holding your baby, there is a shadow aspect to that. And having a multi-dimensional perspective of everything. Jesus, I just made something that didn't have to be deep, really deep, unnecessarily. Questions, more questions. I saw a whole bunch. Somebody said something about do I look through do you go through your cheating partner's social media account without touching their phone? Oh, it's actually a service. It's not even. a question. It's like DM me to go through your cheating partner's social media account without touching their phone, which is a lot there. I thought that was a question. It could have resulted in a lot of conversation. Do you measure your macro and micronutrient influx? That's a good question. The answer to that is no. I don't at all. I have before, especially when I was working out in the gym back in the day, I would say 2003 ish, 20 years ago, when my goal was to gain muscle. And I had a friend who was a bodybuilder, and in bodybuilding, they definitely pay attention to macros. And I remember he would track everything. And so I weighed and measured for a few weeks or months. And then I got an idea of really what macros were. And then I tracked them. I tracked every single workout, every single rep, every single amount of weight, and I would do cycles of training. And every time I would redo a cycle, so if a cycle was a week long and I would go through it, let's say 6 times, then move on to another cycle. This is just an example off the cuff. Reps, weight, something had to increase. And the time of rest stayed the exact same. And as long as I increased a rep or a weight and the time of rest in between my sets stayed exactly the same, then I was getting stronger. That's when I track my nutrients. That was a long time ago. Since then, I became interested in quality of food because when you're tracking macros, quality of food matters less than the quantity of the macros. And uh, quality of food became important. Then it became what the medicinal effect of the food is doing in my body. And now I just make sure my diet is functional. And a functional diet is nourishing our cells, it is facilitating the ability to detox from toxins, garbage, pollution that we build in, detox from just the activity of living produces toxins. And a diet needs to facilitate the evacuation, or from a yogic standpoint, it's even the elimination of the aponic, which is the sort of like it's not really opposite, but it's the outflowing energy of the body. It's like I was going to say like the opposite, for lack of a better explanation, of prana. I'm sure there's a better explanation, but apana is like the outflowing, prana's the energy that comes into the body. But the diet needs to facilitate the detoxification of the cells, the nourishment of the cells, the detoxification of the cells. And then also a diet needs to be functionally repairing the body. And as long as our diet is doing that, we are in and able to sustain a state of health. So when I own gyms and I personally train people and I worked with clients, all like thousands of clients all day, every day, sometimes I would tell them to eat paleo and sometimes I would tell them to eat vegan. And maybe the next year I was into high fat, low carbs. And then maybe 2 years would go by and it was like all about fruit or organs. There was even a time, listen to this, back in like 2010 era, when I coined the phrase pound of bacon a day. I was literally recommending people eat a pound of bacon a day. And that was essentially like pre carnivore, high fat, keto, but I was essentially getting people into that before I even knew how to explain it. I just noticed performance gains and aesthetic gains. And well, performance gains leads to aesthetic gains. But the point is that as I would tell people to eat certain ways, I was noticing that it almost didn't matter whether they ate high fat, low carbs, high carbs, low fat, vegan, paleo, no matter what they did, they all got healthier. They all increased their performance. And that allowed me to question, like, is the actual diet, like, is there one diet that everybody should be eating? And what my gnosis is on that right now, somebody asked, do I still sell Purium? Of course. I'm deep in that. I'm on the freaking advisory board of the company with my wife. She's on it as well. We're working on Purium every single day because Purium, which is the superfood product line that we represent, actually answers the question. It you give it to somebody, they can eat however they want, and their diet is now functionally nourishing their cells, detoxifying their body, and repairing itself. Somebody asked me on TikTok, Full Body Connection asked me. So, reversing back to what I was saying, everybody got healthier no matter how they ate. And I just realized that, like, okay, there must be something else. There's intention, definitely, but what else is important? Nourish the body, detox the body. As long as it's doing that, that's your key. The problem is that the environment is artificial. There's chemtrails, there's pollution, there's spray on everything. I'm walking my dog for some nice fresh air and there's cars driving by. I'm taking a run, I'm riding a bike, I'm riding a unicycle to get some fresh air, to be outside in the sunshine. Cars, like hundreds or thousands of cars driving by. Are you getting that out? You go to a nice restaurant. What kind of pots and pans are they using? Are they cutting things on a plastic cutting board? And if they aren't cutting things on a plastic cutting board, great. Maybe they're using wood. Is there bacteria in the wood? Probably cooking it. That's fine. What about the knives? Are they super, super, super hard steel that does not break when you cut the knife? You guys ever wonder why knives go dull? It's because you think it's sharp because to our eyes it looks like it's ending in a point, but it's not. It's the end is actually really jagged if you look at it underneath a microscope. And those jagged pieces of metal, when you cut into something, start breaking off and it starts to dull the knife. But what a dull knife really means is that the point just broke off a little bit and now it's more rounded than it is sharp. But all of that metal went where? Into your food, and then dun, 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 into your body. Do you have a body? Do you have support to be able to get the metals out of the body, get the microplastics out of the body? Almost everything that you consume is packaged in plastic. It doesn't even matter if it's put in glass. You got a mixture of ingredients in a glass bottle. That's great. How did they get into that glass bottle? It was taken in glass or in plastic, something coated in plastic to a factory that got mixed and they were carrying it around in bags and then they eventually put it into a glass bottle. We're eating about a credit card amount of plastic. Do I have a credit card? So we're eating, look at this is actually funny. It's from a farm. But Jimenez Family Farms, we're eating about a credit card's amount of plastic every single week. And it makes sense because this isn't actually a lot of plastic. But when you think about just how much plastic's in everything and just how it breaks down, just like that metal breaks down. Even the cutting board example. I went to that salad, like a salad place where they serve salad. And is just like so much plastic they're cutting off that cutting board and the cutting board looks all chewed up and looks like a freaking like rug that you wipe your feet off of before you go into the house, and that's the plastic that you're cutting off. You're cutting the healthy salad on. You worry about the wrong things. I'm not worrying about anything. I'm just acting animated for people so that they keep on watching because that's the game here. If I was just boredly talking about, actually, I don't care that much because I don't, because I have Purium. I don't care that much about how I'm eating. That's the whole point. Okay, next question. What Kriya do you return to the most? The one that I just posted a couple weeks ago. And as I was telling everybody that's already been on this call, I'm making all of the Kriyas available to one single membership and all of my Skillful Psyche practices available to the membership. In a couple weeks, I'll release that membership. And that Kriya is the one that I look like this. And I made that Kriya, the very first Kriya in the list of like 140, 150 Kriyas that you'll get access to. Reason for wearing hair on top towards front of head. as opposed to closer to the crown. So there's something you guys can look it up. It's called they're fontanelles. All right, they're the soft spots in babies' heads. And this is actually, if you guys think about the crown chakra or the energy, that is where, if you guys have kids, you might have the experience of young kids while they still have their soft spots before the cranium closes up are talking about seeing other dimensions or talking to other worldly beings. This is very common in very, very young kids, like under the age of 6. And listen to them because they actually do have connection because their head is still opened up and they have access to the other realms through these fontanelles. And there's essentially the anterior fontanelle and the posterior fontanelle. And the solar centers of the body. So there's all this talk about flat earth and outer space isn't real and yada yada yada. I find it interesting. I also, as I was saying earlier, have multiple perspectives. So I like to partake in listening to all aspects of truth and then looking beyond the message and using that perspective to triangulate on what's really important, because what's in the Bible isn't really important, right? Like it's words, and words aren't the thing. Like the word tree isn't actually a tree. So everything in the Bible itself is just a bunch of words. It's actually just a bunch of paper with ink on it that we translate into words. And then those words translate into meaning. And so the meaning of things like the Bible or things like flat earth or things like matrix theory or things like teachings from all sorts of philosophers, even what I'm saying right now, anything that we learn, it's what's beyond the experience that matters. Like what meaning do you give it? And the cool thing about the flat earth people is that they don't believe necessarily in outer space being a sun or stars that are billions of miles away. I don't know much about them, but what I assume, if you look at it from an esoteric standpoint, flat earthers from, and you kind of mix it. So nobody really likes to mix things because it gets you out of your dogma, right? So if you think about something like astrophysics, there was a time when astrology and physicians were studying astronomy, not astrology. Astronomy and physics were separate things, right? And there was then somebody, maybe their dad was an astronomer and their mom was a physician, and they decided that since they've got knowledge from both parts, they're going to do something new and combine them, and it's going to be called astrophysics. And what does that do to all the physicians? They say, that guy is an idiot. This has nothing to do with that. And he's trying to merge them together. And that has nothing, like, he's an idiot. He's wrong. And he gets canceled, right? And we see a bunch of people getting canceled. And then all the astronomers say the same thing. But we all know as time goes on that the astrophysics, the ones that can take how these blend together, is actually, there's more truth there, more perspective there that serves humanity. And so back to flat earthers. And if you combine that with like Eastern philosophy, meridians, and you look at like how the parts of the body are connected to planets, like each finger is a different planet. Days of the week represent different planets and the sun and the moon. And even there's parts in our body, all throughout our body, our chakras. There's 7 main chakras, 7 days of the week, 7 main planets, right? So back to flat earthers. If there's no sun out there and it's something else, then where's the sun? It's it's internal, right? Where is the moon? Where is Saturn? And even if you look at astrology and we think that the planets are having impact on us, well, if there's no planets, then what's actually happening? Right? Like what's actually happening if there is no planet? Where does astrology sit? Where does human design sit? Where does all of that? What does it mean if the flat Earth people, the flat Earth theory, if that does have some truth? That's where my mind goes. Like, okay, so what if? It means that that's all just happening inside of you. Now, the point of that is that somebody asked me, about why do I put my bun here? And that's because it's over the anterior fontanelle with, from a yogic perspective, in men, the solar center is here. It's right over the fontanelle that's in front. It's basically like in the middle of your head. Now, women, those born with women bodies, and I know that I personally know people born with both sex organs. So if you're one of the, I believe, like 0.4 or 4% of the people like that, then you have to figure this out on your own. I can't answer that. But women based bodies, their solar centers they have two, either here or here. And so that's why traditionally women, girls wear ponytails here or here. And you see, if you look in cultures where they're connected to nature, the men wear their hair up here and during the day, and it's basically sunset right now. And then at night, they bring the hair down. And men actually don't have the lunar centers to flow with the moon. And so women do. They've got a bunch of lunar centers all over their body that interacts with the moon. And again, the moon may or may not be real. It may or may not be there. Number one, it may or may not be a organic satellite to this Earth, and this Earth may or may not even be like a gravitational like the gravitational model of the universe was developed like when we didn't even have the technology that we have now. That's like what we came up with hundreds of years ago. And so there's a whole bunch of new models, if you guys aren't aware, that explain how things came to be. The Big Bang thing is, and how everything was dust and then it starts to gravitationally like clumped together into stars, and on the planets are like the leftover part of the star coming together and igniting. That's one thing. So whether the moon's out there, whether the moon's real, whether that, we're all in this gravitational, or maybe it's an electric universe or a plasma electric universe, but whether it's out there, it does also exist within us and we are connected. And one of the primary laws of nature is as above, so below. That was another nice long rant. I don't even know where this stuff comes from. So I hope that answers your question about why do I wear my hair up. The problem is that my hair is getting so heavy. Yes, my hair is real. My hair is getting so heavy that I haven't been able to wear it up because I now, so I have to wear these like super headbands. I used to be able to use like little tiny ones, and then I graduated to these, and now I'm wearing these things can like, these are like commercial grade headbands right here, and I'm using 3 of them now just to hold the hair on top of the head. There's so much, most of my hair goes beneath my butt cheeks, and I'm wondering if it's worth the cost because I can feel it pulling my hair, and I might even be losing hair because of my hair. So now there's the issue that I face. It's the dilemma. It's the shadow side of growing my hair long. If you guys have any questions about anything else, let me know and I'll give you a nice long-winded answer like I have the other ones. Where are you in the universe? I am here now with you. We are all one. If we surrender, there is actually a nice, if we talk about dry fasting I was going to go on another rant, but let me see what this person said. Talk about dry fasting. Dry fasted all day today, but there was a surprise event in my house and I ate. But tomorrow I'll start over and go until I can't anymore. Newsflash, everybody. Newsflash. We dry fast every single day when we sleep. Every single day. I should say every single night, but every day, every cycle, we dry fast. And that's when the body gets the garbage out. That's when the body is battling over water with the other cells, and the weaker, disease damaged tissues will die. Maybe even the bacteria that's not so harmonious to our system will lose out on that fight for water. So, dry fasting is definitely a beneficial, natural part of us. And the great thing about dry fasting is that the magic starts happening after 3 days. And what are we all taught? If you don't drink water for 3 days, you're going to die. That is absolutely not true at all. At all. Someone said, is dry fasting still beneficial for women? So the thing with women is that men are kind of like resilient machines that reset every single day. Women are more dynamic and go through many cycles in their life. And some of the cycles, like the pregnancy cycle, their lunar cycle, and then the cycles within their 28-day lunar cycle, like the four cycles within that, all can optimize or contribute to a better experience, both long term and short term, with anything that you do. So, as a woman, I would invite you to get familiar with especially the lunar cycle. So, there's something called cycle science. Actually, on my podcast, if you guys know anybody who's a subject matter expert of like hair, what are some of the subjects we got coming up? The first one we're doing is, I can't tease too much, but I'll tell you my needs right now. So, hair, relationships, cycle science. If you know any popular, strong, wise, established people in any of those subjects, we look for the top tier subject matter experts. We need we need 5 of them. I'll just say that. We need 5 of them because I bring them to you in a special, unique way. So if you guys know anybody, I'm gathering my list of hair, and I'm going to be interviewing and asking questions in a very specific way to 5 hair experts. So within a few months, you're going to get a hefty amount of knowledge of hair. So back to women, just look up cycle science. Back to dry fasting so I can finish this up. Try it out. No, you're not going to die after 3 days. And if you do, you'll know it before you actually die, and you can drink water. You should never do anything that hurts you, but you're going to discover that it's just being uncomfortable, and the practice of being uncomfortable is a power of its own. All right, Jameson, I have been looking for your YouTube video of manifesting people in your dreams and how it would work 100% of the time like magic. Okay. Does dry fasting cause hair loss? No. Back to what I said. We dry fast every single day. And what do we do after we're done dry fasting? We have breakfast. We break the fast. And dry fasting at night when we sleep is a necessary component of functional health, because processes happen in the body. Autophagy happens. Our kidneys and liver get a rest. They're not processing food and the junk that food creates. We're trying to get rid of the pesticides that end up pooling in our blood and our fat cells. And kidney and liver produce stem cells. We were also taught that we only make stem cells when we're a kid. That's also not true. Fasting is the key to stem cells. Also, autophagy is autophagy. Phagy means eating, auto means self eating. Autophagy happens when you quit eating food through here. So if you start, here I am getting animated again. If you start, God forbid I actually start caring about this stuff. According to this dude, who should I thank for that? It doesn't matter. Stiffy is his name. As when your body starts eating itself, it's going to eat the dead, damaged, diseased, broken, old, I should say cancerous, for lack of a better word, just what we know of a cancer. Just like it's starting to eat the crap that's building up in our body. And the body needs to do that so that the stem cells that would naturally happen when we're not eating go through the body. Stem cells don't just like start replacing cells, they need to be escorted out of the place. All right. So if a stem cell comes up and it sees a healthy cell, the stem cell moves on. And if you're just shoving food in your mouth, the body's not saying like, this cell looks a little like it's going in the wrong direction. Let's freaking consume this thing as energy so that, and there's hydrogen in there. It can even make its own water. Back to dry fasting. There's hydrogen in that, and there's oxygen in the body, and it starts to actually make its own water out of its own self. All right. And the body's only going to do that when it's stressed, which is natural and normal. Natural and normal to sleep every day. Natural and normal not to eat every single day of our entire freaking life, people. You do not need to eat every single 3 hours of your entire life. Does that seem natural to anybody? Does it seem like you'd be walking through the woods and like have a 5-course dinner, and then after that have like a post dinner snack before bed, and then wake up and like immediately have some of this, some drink, and then 2 hours later, oh, I got some more of this food stuff. It was just sitting here on the ground. No, that's not natural. If you want the best functioning body, you go back to the roots of how the body is designed. The body is not designed to be eating all of the time. If you eat all of the time, you will definitely be comfortable, but you're definitely addicted to food. So try out the dry fasting. Those stem cells need empty places to go into. It needs broken cells. In Qigong, there's something called a Qigong hitting stick. In Japan, there's something called Paeda. Both of those are slapping techniques. For what? Because not eating also produces the need to eat dead, damaged, broken cells, but also hitting yourself, which my favorite Kriya that I mentioned earlier, we start off by slapping ourselves. Hitting ourselves also puts the weaker cells out. It damages them to the point where the body says, we need to replace this. And then what does it replace it with? A stem cell. You want to be young? Have the stem cells working and replenishing your body more often. Eat less or fast every once in a while. And by the way, as of a few years ago, the only proven way to extend life is to reduce calories. Not that science is like the end all be all of truth, but scientifically, as of a few years ago, I'm sure that's changed by now since they discovered telomeres and all this other stuff. But the only way that they could prove 20 years ago, let's say, in modern, easy to find literature was through calorie reduction. I lost 25 pounds from fasting recently. I don't know if you remember me, but I talked to you almost 3 years ago now. The name I can see is Z. It's not ringing a bell, Z, but Z from a numerological standpoint is a very powerful letter slash number. All right. There's lots of questions now. Um, what about one meal a day fast or water fast? Yeah, it's all good. I think that um what I was saying is try this out. Try this out and experience it for yourself because you're going to triangulate the truth on the matter. It's beyond just simply trying a dry fast or listening to what I say. I'm not even an expert. There's other people that are experts. You can look up. Um, the only two that I really know of a dry fasting is uh, fasting with Alice on Instagram and fasting with Trevor, I think are their names. Look them up, scroll through their pages, check them out. They fast for 14, they dry fast, meaning no water and no shower, no brushing the teeth, 14, 21 days. Yeah, they lose a lot of weight, but they gain it back really quickly after because the body's primed. They're like the body's now like in baby stem cell state. Jameson. So hold on. Lots of questions here. Sydney's asking for a book recommendation, and the one that just came to mind when I read that is called Initiation, by Elizabeth W., I think. But another one that would be really cool that like really starts to get crazy is, I'll give you two. I'll give you two. One is called Immortal Man by Neville Goddard. And these are like advanced level readings, but they're old. They're old. They're like very old, not modern times. And then the other one is called the Master Key System. And these books are about ancient wisdom. And when you actually read like Master Key System and Immortal Man, you'll start to see that the rulers of this earth knew this stuff 100, 200, 300 years ago. And that's how they position themselves into placement. Now, what we all think is that the very, very wealthy, successful people on this planet are like doing it the way we would do it, right? That's how we only have capacity to imagine things, is that they're super wealthy and powerful. They must have worked really hard because that's how I know how to make money. Or they must have took advantage of a lot of people because that's the only way I know how they would have done it. But a lot of what I'm saying is that we believe, or it's easy to believe that they somehow had a lot of force onto this physical reality because that's how we make change and we make progress in this physical reality as we push our way through and we try to manipulate the things within this physical reality. We go to the physical boss and we ask for a raise and then we get the physical money. We actually made change within this physical reality. The thing is, making change here and now, this is not the origin of change. This all exists first non-physically. First, this all exists non-physically. Making the change in the adjustments non-physically is the origin of all of this. And that's where, if we really want massive, dramatic change in our life, we go there first. We wrap our mentality around the direction that we would like to see in reality. We wrap our feelings, we harmonize our feelings, we set intentions, we feel into how we would be in a certain direction, whether it's something changing in you or something changing in reality. And it's not a force at that point. You only have to force things when you're going against it. All right. So forcing your way into this physical reality and trying to switch things up and change things and manipulate people and scam people and woo people and please people and get people to like you to get the things that you want. That's that's a game that very powerful, or very happy, or very wise people, or very experienced people. That's a game that they do not play. They don't play that game because they know that the origin of it all, like they set the aim, not within physical reality, they set the aim, the aiming device doesn't exist here. And all of the practices that I share, the stuff that I'm talking about on my social medias, the skillful psyche practices, the Kriya of the week experiences, has to do with being able to harmonize to the origin of all of this. Because that all resides in your thoughts, in your feelings, in your faith, in your trust, in the love of that thing that we can't touch here. And we don't discover it by somebody like me telling you what it is. You discover it on your own journey. And when you start to feel like you have it, like it's almost like a skill that you can, like riding a bike, or like I learned to ride a unicycle as an adult, and it's like this, like you get on it first and you immediately fall off. There's like no freaking awareness at all of what I should be doing, what the balance is. But after like 200 tries, you're like, oh, I felt something. I felt like I grasped a way to balance there. And it's the same thing with like this manifestation capability. You start to feel like you have it, and then it's gone. And then eventually you start to feel, it's not a muscle, but you start to feel like more coordination with it, and working with it, and practicing with it, and then experimenting with it, and then eventually relying on it. And when you rely on it, you trust it. And when you trust it, it almost becomes like another being, like another entity. It's like it's another aspect of yourself that you didn't know existed until you went through the process and gained that insight. And then you realize that that's where everything is. That's where all the power is. Why am I wearing gloves? Because I've been working a lot I've got 3 monitors in front of me, 2 phones, a freaking wireless keyboard, a wireless mouse, and my hands started burning if I just even touch a device. And so these are EMF gloves. Right? They're basically like lined in silver to block the EMF, and it really works. And these are EMF glasses, which really don't work. I should have my orange ones on. I'll leave these on for now. So back to Jameson, which his question had to do with a YouTube video that I made. And I believe what you guys would want to look up is at Raw of Earth's YouTube channel. Just search Raw of Earth color tricolor meditation. I forget what it's called. It's called color entrainment technique as well. I didn't make that up. That's actually trademarked, but I gave a video explaining it, and then I also gave another version of the color entrainment technique. And it's not, the point of that is not to the point of it is to access the dream realm where other people are. But remember, because that's the origin, if you rape anything there, you're raping yourself. Because the only way any of that works is if you realize and are responsible for your actions, because their separateness doesn't exist. So if you rape people in that reality, you end up raping yourself. And that's what essentially the subject of karma is. Where is the video you talking about meditation where you say something like, do nothing now, you are doing this? Oh, somebody, he found it. It's called Lucid State Color Meditation. It's based on color entrainment technique, which you guys can also look up. Um, I enjoy mixing things because I believe they're all parts of a truth, and that's why they even get attention in the first place. There's truth in them. Lowell Savage said that. And geez, there's a lot of people in here saying stuff. Oh, thank you for buying a badge. Carol, my beautiful and amazing, awesome, loving, happy, talkative, joyous, cooking. When I think of her, I think of the happiness of eating is one of the I think of a kitchen. I think of her in the kitchen. That's definitely not the limits of her beauty, but it pops it in there in the list of things. I just saw somebody named John of Earth. I will check some more questions before I go. What about one meal a day? Already answered that. Do you know any way to listen about how the 1,000-day Kriya started in sadhana? I am on my 1,000-day Kriya, about 200 days in. Just want to know if you have any intuitive thoughts. So Kriyas are essentially programs that you go through, and while you go through them day by day by day by day, the program stays the same. You do the exact Kriya every single day. What ends up happening is you change. You change as you continuously do the program, and the program has an intended effect. And as you repeat the Kriya, that intended effect happens because you're using and opening up certain energy centers or meridians in the body. And as your body starts to reproduce itself back to the stem cells, as your body starts to reproduce itself, Carol, are you on here? She bought a badge. Just want to see if she wants to actually come live, if you can. I know she was working a Purium event, actually spreading, giving out samples at a core power yoga. So as your body cells start to reproduce and replicate as you're going through the Kriya, the energetic impact of the Kriya gets imprinted into your body, and you go through the day with the intention of the Kriya. Well, as your body starts to reproduce itself, every cell has that imprint. And so if you do a Kriya for 7 days, it's going to leave a certain amount of lasting energy in your body because cells regenerated during that time, and it's going to have that imprint. Same thing with emotions and thought forms. If you guys are constantly repeating, I hate myself, I hate myself, I hate myself, your body's literally programmed to that, and it's just normal. It's normal to say I hate myself, and you don't even realize that that's a story that you've imprinted into yourself. So the Kriya cuts through that with the effort that you put into it, cuts through that noise, and you actually get to connect with yourself in many, many different ways. So if you repeat a Kriya for 7 days, that is what gets imprinted into your cells. That present awareness of I'm breathing and lifting my arms up and down, and I'm doing it, and I feel myself. I'm moving my hands in a certain way, and my body's connected to my thoughts, connected to my emotions. So you're actually cutting through the blockages. If you repeat it for 21 days, there's other things in your body that reproduce. 108 days, for example, all of your blood constantly all of your blood completely changes every 108 to 120 days. So if you do a Kriya, if you said you're on day 200, if you do a Kriya for 200 days, whatever the intended effect of that Kriya is, every single blood vessel in your entire body has experienced that Kriya. It's running the program of that Kriya. And the same thing is for more and more cells, more and more thoughts. If you do something for 3 years, which is like 1,000-ish days, then you learn something, and that's going to be something you carry with you for the rest of your life. So that is the thinking, the philosophy. One of them is how I was taught behind doing 1,000-day Kriya. Hope that answers the question. Someone said, I love myself. That's actually, he's been commenting a lot. Peaceful Juice Man. I have initiation, Sydney, and actually she or he, I can't see, or they um said the thing about the 1,000-day Kriya. What does Solar eat? We haven't found anything that we would recommend, so I can't tell you. Do you use shampoos or conditioner? Does your hair tangle? What's the solution? Again, I've tried some things. I don't have something that I love. All right, it's been wild, y'all. I think I'm out. So I am going to be out. Let me close out of here.